The desperate call. The crystal spires of Kythera Prime sparkled like frozen starlight against the purple sky, their surfaces pulsing with the gentle bioluminescent communications of a civilization that had known peace for over 3,000 years. Ambassador Zara 9 stood in the Grand Assembly's observation deck, her translucent blue form flickering with patterns of worry that would have been beautiful to any observer who didn't understand their meaning. Each flash of light across her crystalline skin was a word, a thought, a desperate plea that no one seemed able to answer. The Kythera had evolved beyond physical violence eons ago. Their entire species communicated through light patterns that danced across their crystal-like bodies, creating conversations that looked like living art. They had built their civilization on principles of harmony, scientific advancement, and the protection of all sentient life. Their medical technology could heal wounds that would be fatal to other species. Their terraforming abilities had turned dead worlds into gardens. Their philosophers had solved conflicts that had raged for centuries between other species. But none of that mattered now. High Counselor Fex of the Galactic Harmony Coalition materialized as a hologram beside Zara 9, his own species' tentacles writhing with barely controlled panic. The coalition represented 47 different peaceful species, all united under the sacred covenant of non-aggression that had kept this part of the galaxy stable for 5 centuries. Fex's people, the Malari, were known for their calm demeanor and careful thinking. Seeing him, this agitated sent waves of fearful light cascading across Zara 9's form. The reports from Kythera 7 are confirmed, Fex said, his voice carrying the weight of unimaginable loss. The entire world is simply gone. Not destroyed, not conquered. Gone, as if it never existed. 15 billion souls, erased from reality itself. Zara 9's light patterns shifted to deep crimson, the Kythera equivalent of screaming. 3 days ago, the Shadowmaw Collective had shattered the peace treaty without warning. They had emerged from the dark spaces between galaxies with technology that defied every known law of physics. Their weapons didn't just destroy matter, they erased it from existence, creating voids in space where entire planets had once orbited their stars. The Shadowmaws themselves were creatures of nightmare-given form. Each one stood 3 meters tall, with bodies that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They had no faces, only shifting masses of darkness where features should be. They fed on the life force of entire civilizations, growing stronger with each world they consumed. Their ships were living things, grotesque combinations of flesh and metal that moved through space like predators hunting prey. "What of our fleets?" Zara 9 asked, though her fading light patterns showed she already knew the answer. Fex's tentacles drooped with defeat. The combined defense force engaged them at the Meridian Nebula. 43 ships, the largest fleet we've ever assembled. The Shadowmaws had only 7 vessels. He paused, struggling with the words. Our ships lasted 6 minutes. The enemy weapons tore holes in reality itself. Our shields, our armor, our most advanced defensive systems might as well have been made of paper. The observation deck's emergency lighting cast eerie shadows as more reports flooded in. Kythera 4 had vanished during the night cycle. Kythera 2 was under attack, its population sending final light songs of farewell as the Shadowmaw fleet approached. The gentle beings who had never known war were being systematically erased from existence. There must be someone, Zara 9 said, her light patterns becoming erratic with desperation. Some species with military capability we haven't contacted. The galaxy is vast. Fex activated the Coalition's master database, a repository of information about every known species in their region of space. The holographic display showed thousands of entries, but as they filtered for species with significant military capabilities, the list grew shorter and shorter. The Zenith Collective was fighting the Void Reapers in the Outer Rim. The Iron Brotherhood had been decimated by the Plague Wars. The warrior houses of Proxima were too distant to arrive in time. "Wait," said junior analyst Kexmar, a young Malari who had been frantically searching through archived first contact reports. "There's something here." a species called humans, from a planet designated as Sol 3, also known as Earth. They were contacted 75 years ago. The main display shifted to show the human entry. At first glance, it seemed unremarkable. The file showed images of bipedal mammals with smooth skin and primitive-looking technology. Their diplomats had been polite during first contact. Their traders were honest. Their scientists were curious and eager to learn. They had established small colonies on a handful of worlds and seemed content with peaceful expansion. "They're perfect," Thex said, reading the surface information. "Recent contact means they're nearby. They've established trade relationships, so they understand galactic communication protocols. And look here, they have experience with military conflicts among their own species." But Kexamar was digging deeper into the file, his young eyes catching details that the senior officials had missed in their desperation. "Sir, there are some unusual notations in the original scout reports. Their planet is classified as Class X hostile environment. The gravity is listed as extreme for most species. The atmospheric pressure, the radiation levels, the biological hazards. Sir, their world is classified as a death world." A death world. Zara-9's patterns flickered with confusion. But their diplomats seemed so pleasant. Their traders are honest and fair. Kexmar continued reading, his voice growing more uncertain. The original survey team noted extreme biodiversity with what they called unprecedented aggressive characteristics. They documented something called predator saturation, where nearly every life form on the planet evolved to hunt other life forms. The scout report has a warning label, "Recommend extreme caution." Local dominant species appears to be apex predator of apex predators. "That was 75 years ago," Thex said dismissively. "They've obviously evolved beyond such primitive behaviors. Look at their current diplomatic record. Not a single aggressive incident." What none of them realized was that humanity's peaceful facade was exactly that, a carefully maintained illusion. For 75 years, Earth had been playing the role of harmless newcomers, while secretly building the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. They had studied every species they encountered, analyzed every weapon system, and prepared for threats that other civilizations couldn't even imagine. The truth was buried so deep in classified files that even most humans didn't know about it. The traders and diplomats that other species met were real, but behind them stood the Terran Void Fleet, a military organization that had been preparing for interstellar war since first contact. They had taken humanity's natural aggression, refined it with scientific precision, and created something that would have terrified the galaxy if anyone had known it existed. "Send the distress signal," Thex ordered. "Include all data about the Shadow Maw attacks, their technology, and our losses. Make it clear that we're facing extinction and need immediate military assistance." The quantum-encrypted message was prepared with desperate efficiency. It painted a clear picture of an evil force destroying innocent civilizations, of peaceful species being erased from existence, and of the galaxy's need for someone, anyone, with the strength to fight back. The message contained detailed tactical data about the Shadow Maw weapons, their ship configurations, and their apparent immunity to conventional warfare. As the signal raced across space toward the Sol system, Zara-9 looked out at her dying world. The Shadow Maw fleet was approaching Kythera Prime, their dark ships visible as moving voids against the starfield. Her people were broadcasting their final light songs, beautiful patterns of acceptance and farewell that lit up the crystal cities like a festival of endings. "How long until the humans can respond?" she asked. "If they agree to help, their closest military assets could reach us in 18 hours, Kexmar replied. "But we don't know if they'll even understand the urgency. Their military experience seems limited to conflicts among their own species." High above the planet, the Shadow Maw Hive Queen Vexthar stood on the bridge of her flagship, a living vessel that pulsed with stolen life force from a dozen conquered worlds. Her form was a shifting mass of darkness that hurt to look at directly, and her presence seemed to drain light from the space around her. She had consumed civilizations across 3 galaxies, and the peaceful species of this region would add their strength to her collective. "The Light Singers will be the next to feed us," she whispered, her voice like the sound of dying stars. "Their life force will taste of starlight and hope. After them, we will consume the tentacle speakers and their coalition of weaklings." Her sensors detected the quantum signal racing toward unknown space, but she dismissed it as irrelevant. What could a species of peaceful traders and explorers do against the power that had erased entire worlds? The Shadowmaws had faced warrior cultures before, civilizations that had spent millennia perfecting the art of war. All had fallen before the reality-warping weapons that turned matter itself into nothingness. But Vexthar had never encountered a species like humanity. She had never faced beings who had evolved on a world so hostile that simply surviving to adulthood required the instincts of a predator. She had never met creatures who could smile while planning destruction, who could appear peaceful while building weapons that could crack continents. The signal reached Earth's outer monitoring stations exactly 17 hours and 43 minutes after transmission. Deep beneath the Swiss Alps, in a facility that existed on no official records, Admiral Sarah Chen felt the quantum resonance detector activate for the first time in 75 years. The message played across the screens of the Terran Command Center, showing the destruction of entire worlds and the desperate plea for help from species that had never known real war. Admiral Chen was a woman whose family had served in Earth's hidden military for 3 generations. Her grandfather had been one of the architects of humanity's great deception, the decision to hide their true nature from the galaxy while preparing for the day when their predator instincts would be needed. Analysis. She asked her staff, though her own mind was already racing through tactical possibilities. "The enemy technology is beyond anything in the Coalition database," reported Dr. Elena Vasquez, the base's chief xenobiologist and military strategist. "They're using weapons that manipulate reality at the quantum level. Conventional defenses are useless." "Conventional defenses, yes," Admiral Chen said with a smile that would have chilled any alien observer. "But we stopped using conventional anything 50 years ago. Signal all ships. Activate Operation Silent Thunder. It's time to show the galaxy what humans really are." Across Earth and its hidden colonies, systems that had waited in silence for decades came to life. In orbital shipyards concealed behind stealth fields, massive vessels emerged from their hiding places. On the lunar far side, Marines who had trained their entire lives for a war that might never come began loading their equipment. In the asteroid belt, weapons platforms that could level continents swiveled toward the stars. The Terran Void Fleet was humanity's greatest secret and their ultimate weapon. 47 ships that looked nothing like the small traders other species had seen. These were predators built for war, sleek and deadly as the apex hunters they were named after. The flagship, TDF Silent Thunder, was 3 kilometers of armored death that could move through space like a living thing. "Signal the Coalition," Admiral Chen ordered. "Tell them help is on the way. And send a message to the Shadowmaw fleet. Let them know they picked the wrong species to threaten." The response would reach the Viridian cluster in 18 hours. When it arrived, both the Coalition and the Shadowmaws would learn that Earth had earned its classification as a death world, and that humanity had spent 75 years preparing for exactly this moment. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when someone threatened the species that had turned survival into an art form and protection of innocence into a sacred duty. The awakening giant, Captain Marcus Ghost Rodriguez, stood in the main hangar bay of the TDF Silent Thunder, watching his Marines load equipment that no alien species had ever seen. The hangar was vast enough to house a small city, its walls lined with weapons and vehicles that seemed to bend light around their edges. His nickname came from his unit's ability to appear and disappear on any battlefield. But today there would be no hiding. Today, humanity would show the galaxy exactly what they had become. Rodriguez was a 3rd-generation Void Marine, born and raised in the hidden military colonies that orbited Earth's outer planets. His grandfather had fought in the last wars on Earth, before humanity reached the stars. His father had helped design the stealth systems that kept human military assets invisible for 75 years. Marcus had trained his entire life for the day when that secrecy would end. "Listen up, devil dogs," he called to his assembled unit, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never lost a Marine under his command. "We're about to make first contact with some very unfriendly neighbors. Intelligence says they've been erasing entire worlds from existence. They think they're the galaxy's apex predators." His smile was sharp enough to cut steel. Time to show them they're wrong. The Marines responded with a sound that would have terrified any peaceful species, a combination of cheers and growls that spoke to humanity's predator heritage. These were soldiers who wore powered armor that could survive in the heart of a star, carried weapons that fired compressed gravity, and moved through space with the fluid grace of born hunters. Dr. Elena Vasquez moved through the ship's corridors toward the command bridge, her mind racing through the tactical analysis she had prepared for Admiral Chen. As the fleet's chief xenobiologist, she had spent decades studying every species humanity had encountered, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited if diplomacy failed. The Shadow Maws were unlike anything in her files, but that only made the challenge more interesting. "Their biology is fascinating," she murmured to herself as she reviewed the data. "They're not truly alive in any sense we understand. They're more like organized patterns of dark energy that consume life force to maintain coherence, which means they probably don't understand biological warfare." Elena smiled as she considered the implications. Humanity had learned to fight on a world where everything was trying to kill them. They had developed biological weapons that could adapt, evolve, and target specific genetic markers. If the Shadow Maws fed on life force, then humanity's biotechnology might be able to give them a very unpleasant surprise. On the bridge of the Silent Thunder, Admiral Chen stood before a holographic display that showed the entire Terran Void Fleet. 47 ships hung in space around Earth, each one a masterpiece of military engineering that incorporated technology far beyond what humanity had shared with the galaxy. The ships themselves were works of art, sleek predators designed to hunt in the cold dark between stars. "Status report," Chen ordered as her senior staff took their positions. "All ships report ready for hyperspace jump," announced Commander Sarah Park from the navigation station. "Our new quantum drives will get us to the Viridian cluster in 16 hours instead of the 18 we promised." "Weapons systems are charged and ready," reported Weapons Officer Lieutenant Commander Kim Zhao. "All ships are armed with our latest gravity cannons, quantum torpedoes, and reality stabilizers. We also have the new biotechnology packages that Dr. Vasquez designed." "Communications are standing by," added Communications Officer Major Alex Rivera. "We're monitoring all coalition frequencies and have prepared several surprise transmissions for the Shadow Maws." Admiral Chen nodded, her expression serious but confident. The ship's command crew were all veterans of humanity's hidden conflicts, the small wars and border skirmishes that the galaxy had never known about. They had fought pirates who used alien technology, rebels who had stolen coalition weapons, and worse threats that lurked in the dark spaces between civilized systems. "Before we begin," Chen said, "I want everyone to understand what we're about to do. For 75 years, humanity has maintained the fiction that we're peaceful explorers and traders. We've hidden our true nature, our military capabilities, and our technology because we hoped we'd never need to reveal them." She paused, looking at each of her officers. "That era ends today." The holographic display shifted to show images from the Shadow Maw attacks. Entire worlds reduced to empty space, civilizations erased from existence, peaceful species begging for help that their own military forces couldn't provide. The crew watched in grim silence as the scale of the destruction became clear. "The coalition species chose peace over power," Chen continued. "They evolved beyond violence and built their civilizations on cooperation and mutual aid. That choice made them vulnerable to predators like the Shadow Maws. But we made a different choice." She gestured to the tactical display showing Earth's hidden military assets. We chose to remain predators while appearing to be prey. We built weapons while pretending to study art. We trained for war while signing peace treaties. We prepared for the day when someone would threaten the innocent and need us to do what peaceful species cannot. The truth was that humanity had never stopped being warriors. Earth's surface might look peaceful to alien visitors, but beneath the oceans and inside the mountains, massive military installations have been growing for decades. The asteroid belt was filled with hidden weapons platforms. The outer planets housed training facilities where humans learned to fight in every possible environment. General James Ironwall Thompson joined the bridge via hologram from his command ship, the TDF Predator's moon. He was a massive man whose presence seemed to fill whatever space he occupied, even as a projection. His nickname came from his legendary defensive strategies, but those who knew him understood that the best defense was often an overwhelming offense. "Admiral," Thompson reported, "the Marine Expeditionary Force is ready for deployment. We have 12,000 Marines in powered armor, with full biotechnology support and enough firepower to level a continent. The boys are eager to introduce these shadow moths to human hospitality." "Outstanding, General. What's our tactical assessment?" Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her scientific mind having found patterns in the chaos of the shadow moth attacks. Their weapons work by destabilizing matter at the quantum level, essentially convincing reality that the target never existed. It's incredibly sophisticated, but it has limitations. The effect requires enormous energy and can't be sustained indefinitely. More importantly, she continued, their technology assumes they're fighting species that use conventional matter-energy weapons. They've never encountered our gravity-based weapons or our reality stabilizers. Their defenses are designed to erase incoming projectiles, not to deal with weapons that manipulate space-time itself. Admiral Chen smiled, the expression of a predator who had found her prey's weakness. "What about their biology?" "That's where it gets interesting," Elena said, her eyes lighting up with scientific enthusiasm. "They're not truly biological in any sense we understand. They're patterns of organized dark energy that maintain coherence by consuming life force, which means they've never encountered biological weapons, and they have no immunity to them." "Perfect," Chen said. "We'll hit them with everything they're not prepared for. Gravity weapons to bypass their matter erasure defenses, reality stabilizers to protect our ships, and biological weapons to attack their energy patterns directly." The fleet began its hyperspace jump, disappearing from Earth's solar system in flashes of twisted light. To any observer, it would have seemed impossible. Humanity had publicly claimed to possess only basic faster-than-light communication, but their ships were moving at speeds that should have been theoretically impossible. The secret was humanity's quantum drives, technology that folded spacetime instead of simply moving through it. The drives had been developed in absolute secrecy over 30 years, tested in the outer reaches of human space, where no alien sensors could detect them. They gave human ships capabilities that no other species possessed, the ability to appear anywhere in the galaxy with almost no warning. As the fleet raced through hyperspace, the crew prepared for humanity's first open interstellar war. In the marine bays, soldiers checked weapons that fired compressed black holes and tested armor that could regenerate from almost any damage. In the ship's laboratories, biotechnology specialists prepared weapons that would attack the shadow moth's energy patterns like viruses attacking living cells. The communication suite intercepted and decoded hundreds of messages from the Viridian cluster. The coalition forces were in full retreat, their fleets scattered and their leaders preparing for the extinction of their civilizations. The shadow moth advance had accelerated, with 3 more worlds disappearing in the time it took the human fleet to cross half the galaxy. "Admiral," reported Communications Officer Rivera, "we're receiving a final transmission from Kythera Prime. Ambassador Zara 9 is broadcasting what appears to be a funeral song for her entire species." Chen's expression hardened. The Kythera were artists and healers, beings whose light-pattern communications created beauty wherever they went. The thought of such creatures being erased from existence by parasites like the shadow moths triggered something deep in humanity's protective instincts. "Signal all ships," she ordered. "Maximum velocity. We're not going to let them finish the job." 16 hours after leaving Earth, the Terran Void Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Viridian Cluster. What they found was a scene of devastation that would have broken the hearts of any peaceful species. 7 worlds had been reduced to empty space, their absence marked only by the gravitational disturbances where planets should have been. But the humans weren't peaceful. They were predators who had found something threatening their territory and the innocents under their protection. Admiral Chen looked at the tactical display showing the Shadow Moth fleet surrounding Kythera Prime and felt the same cold rage that had driven humanity to dominate their Death World home. "All ships, battle stations," she announced. "Today the galaxy learns what humans really are. Today we show them why Earth is called a Death World. Today we remind the universe that sometimes you need monsters to fight monsters." The Shadow Moth fleet detected the new arrivals and turned to face them, confident in their ability to erase any threat from existence. They had destroyed the combined fleets of 47 species. What could one small group of primitive mammals possibly do? They were about to find out that humanity had been preparing for this moment since the day they first looked up at the stars and wondered what was waiting out there in the dark. The galaxy's greatest predators were about to meet Earth's apex hunters, and only one species would survive the encounter. The silent thunder moved forward like a living thing, its weapons already charging with the power to reshape reality itself. Behind it came the rest of humanity's hidden fleet, 46 more ships filled with Marines who had trained their entire lives to protect the innocent by destroying anything that threatened them. The war for the soul of the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the universe exactly what they had become during their 75 years of pretending to be harmless.